Morning, good morning.
It's not so great to stay up late.
No, it's not, is it?
We're tired today.
But we're happy because our dear daughter did a gig at the Jazz Cafe, and
London.
it's world famous Jazz Cafe.
That's what it's called.
And she absolutely knocked the ball out of the court.
And my fantastic nephew,
Yep.
Dina's son, who writes the music, she writes the lyrics, he writes the music. It was just an incredible night. And I used to hang out at the Jazz Cafe in my late 20s, early 30s, and mid 30s, in fact.
Yeah, I loved it.
I used to go there all the time to actually, mind you, in my memory, it was much bigger than that.
Yeah, well, because we were smaller.
No, I wasn't any smaller. But to
was.
be standing there watching our child on stage, just owning that stage as well, because she was so nervous. We didn't want to tell you, but we've had a hell of a fucking week. All of us very nervous. She's been very nervous, and she's a bit like you and me when we get nervous. She kind of shuts down.
Yeah, she closes down. But I mean, you're walking onto a stage that Amy's walked onto.
Yeah.
And I mean, years ago, I filmed there quite a few times. It's like Ronnie Scott's, the Jazz Cafe, Bass Clef, and the 100 Club. They're sort of your four jazz venues. And it's just, I have to say, I said on my post.
The Christians that asked her to support. And it was just such a lovely story, because Mark had posted a really beautiful picture of Maddie when she was like 4 years old, didn't you? And then we made connections and all. Anyway, it's a lovely story, and it's not mine to tell, it's hers to tell if she wants to one day. But it was a great night.
Yeah, sorry, I love seeing Fiona Snot Bunny's name, Mark the Farter. Michelle, it was an amazing gig. You'd think she'd been doing it for years.
Wouldn't you, Michelle?
You're absolutely right, yeah. No, it was. I mean, I put on my post, I was starstruck, and it was weird because it's the biggest gig she's done. It's the sort of highest profile that she's done. It was an intimidating space, and what we noticed was that she gravitated to that size of event, which is weird to see that happen in one of your kids. It's just weird. Anyway, it was just joyful. It was joyful.
That's why we're a little
so we're off now.
Low key this morning. We've still got loads of stuff to film for Vlogmas today and everything.
Oh my God, we've got loads to edit, loads to make. Oh God, it's just,
Are you enjoying Vlogmas?
Come on, guys. Are you enjoying Vlogmas?
If you're new to this channel, Vlogmas is our daily reality show. Goes out every day all the way through Christmas, and it's fucking chaos.
And do you know what I really enjoy doing? I really enjoy the fact that our Vlogmas really irritates a few. A few people really hate us, and every time I post it, I love it, because I think they'll hate this bit.
I love this. This is my sweatshirt from last year. This is from Sea, Soul and Snow. I love her sweatshirts. And look, over it already. Over Christmas.
That could be misconstrued.
But anyway, we've got some juicy topics today. A third of men want more than one partner. Of a poll of 1,000 men.
Right.
Grieving pets. And what's the other one? Step families at Christmas. And we've got a weather alert. So we're going to go through all of those this morning.
First of all, I think we should talk about the weather. They are talking about the fact that I was looking just for London. There's a weird thing about ADHD thinking going off in a million different fractures. Stick with it, Mark. Okay, so the temperatures are set to plummet. The Met Office, which incidentally, did you know that the Met Office is about to go on strike? I kid you not. So we're not going to be able to get our weather. Our weathermen and women are going to be on strike. But yeah, a really sort of cold snap is going to hit us. Frosts, -3 in the wind chill. And that's in London next Wednesday. So
Wednesday?
Next Friday. This Friday, sorry. God only
knows.
knows.
We get it right in a minute. Yeah. When's it going to be cold?
This Friday. It's going to be -3 with the wind.
The meteorologists are going on strike next as well.
I just said that.
Oh, sorry.
You weren't listening.
No, I wasn't.
I said we're going to have no weather. Where are you?
I was actually having a little sleep.
You remember when you were doing the chocolate brand, and behind the chocolate as she was holding it, she'd be like, let me show you what she was like. Imagine this is behind the chocolate, she'd be like, anyway, it's already cold. I was going to say, so anyone not in London, when you drive from where we live into central London, the temperature goes up by 2 degrees Celsius because of the collective heat of central London. It's a bit like if you put plants on the patio near the house, they don't experience a frost. What did I just say?
So I was just reading. No, I didn't, and I would really like to see that. George's ADHD film, I'd really like to see that. Oh, you told me about that last week, didn't you? But I keep on forgetting what the name of it is. Another film on ADHD. I'd like to see that.
So yeah, so anyway, so it's a cold snap coming. So the point being that the Met Office are issuing a warning. I think it's a weather warning of class 4, which is just one below a national emergency. Did you hear any of that?
Yeah.
The weather warning is one step below a national emergency.
Okay.
That's how bad it is.
So
Come
it's
on,
not a
have
national emergency then?
Yeah, but there are
It's
five.
below a
There are
national-
5 levels, and it's at 4.
Yeah, but it's below.
It's like going to fucking Nando's
Come
and
on.
going for very hot. Well, no, very hot. Anyway, so look, what they're saying is, seriously look out for the vulnerable, the elderly, those in your family who are, take them in for a bit. I mean, we keep, well, I would take my mum in, except her flat's warmer than our house. So,
The thing is, I was chatting about this last night. We've all got so used to just not putting on extra jumpers and socks, haven't we? And it's like, we're not putting the heating on. We only put it in Kiki's room because her room is very cold. But it's like, we all walk around and go, oh, it's cold. And then actually, when I put an hoodie on and a pair of socks and actually in a blanket on the bed, I was actually warm.
and if you move about a lot,
But it's the elderly that you worry
Yeah,
about
of course.
because, of course, they can't do that. And if they're not eating enough either, it's a sorry state of
As
affairs.
Jackie
Of course,
Valli-
Putin will be over the moon.
oh, Putin's busy pooing. But as Jackie Valino says, they do generally exaggerate the weather, don't they?
They do.
What did I say?
They do generally exaggerate the weather. Can we talk about something else?
Yes,
I'm a
are
bit
you
bored.
in the room?
I don't really like weather.
Okay, well, let's talk about pets.
Go on, do you want me to start?
Yeah, because it's...
No, I just saw this couple of days. I'm a real fan of Judge Rinder. I love Judge Rinder. And apparently a couple of days ago on Good Morning Britain, he actually got tearful because he just lost his dog. And I just think, spoken about this before, and I know a couple of people here have recently lost animals. And the thing is, I think we just always have to remember that for a lot of people, and a dear friend of ours has just lost her dog. In the same week that she lost her mum, and she is just grieving so much, isn't she, Mark? It's so painful. And actually, Dina's friend as well yesterday was telling me she's recently lost her dog, and she said he was very old. She said, but he was just always there. And I think before we had animals, I probably wouldn't think much of it if somebody had said that they'd lost an animal. I'd go, oh, that's sad. But I think it's really important to remember that actually for a lot of people, that's a family member, isn't it? With as much pain and grief involved as losing a family member.
Totally.
And it's not something that somebody's going to get over in a few days. Some will, and that's all right too. But for many, it's a grief that they never ever get over.
And also, the detail in his story was he lost him suddenly, and the same with our friend. It was unexpected. It wasn't that sort of. That doesn't make it any less traumatic. In fact, I was talking to someone last night at the gig who'd just lost their dog, and they were old and all that. But it doesn't change anything because the longer, like people, the longer they're around, the more there is to
time
miss.
you've had.
But let's read some of your stories. Grania Scarlet, we lost 3 of our 4 guinea pigs in the last year. That's a bit crap. Yeah, and animals break your heart. Good ship lollipop. Christos, what did you say there? Ooh, you've flown up. Where are you? Sorry, Christos, I've lost you. Sarah Paulmutter, you have to understand grief is so blooming lonely when it's an animal. They are my kids. And I lost 2 last December. And it was devastating.
Exactly.
My
And for you, it must be so hard when people then never mention or never, like they would think to if it was your child. But that is the equivalent.
Well, my nan's cat was with her from almost the point that her husband, my grandfather, died. And I'll never forget the distress and the upset and the sadness when she discovered Mitzi, had passed away in her lounge.
She always said she'd go as soon as Mitzi.
And it wasn't long after, was it? I don't think it was long after. And so, that companionship, that connection, not just between old people. Now, my experience of my first pet, I think I first experienced, the first thing that died in my life was at the age of, I think Mum would correct me, but I think I was about 13 or 12. And Millie, my dog, is it Millie? Is that her name? Yeah. Millie, my dog. Missy. What am I talking about, Millie? Missy. Yeah, sorry. Missy, my dog, was savagely bitten in the neck by one of our other dogs and discovered by our neighbour having bled to death on my mother's bed, actually. And that was so sudden, so unexpected.
So violent.
We were coming out of a summer holiday or a holiday of some form. I cried for about a week on my nan's bed. I just couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it. It's just awful. Pink Lady, devastated every time I've lost an animal. My 2 cats now have on some level saved my life. My older boy gave me a reason to live after a breakdown.
Sweet
Elsa
too.
Pop, people don't take losing pets seriously enough. The only ones that don't judge you. Well, Toffee does. No, I agree. Are you... Vicky waiting a little bit. Josephine Walton, lost our 14-year-old Cocker Spaniel a month ago. Wow, much more devastated than I thought I'd be. Just have to remember what a great life he had.
Well, I've said it before, hasn't it? Do you remember when Chi-Chi was really ill and she just wasn't here because she was
Oh
in a
my
hospital for
God.
ages? And I'm always like, oh, bloody dogs, they're driving me mad, they're driving me mad. And then when she wasn't here, you open the door, she's not there at your feet. She goes to the bin, she's not nagging you for something to eat. All those things that annoy me about her. And then it was like, oh, I wish she was here annoying me.
Lucy Heaney, we lost our Springer Spaniel to bone cancer 6 weeks ago. She was just 6 years old. We feel so robbed. Oh, Christos, thank you. Someone asked me what the most difficult thing about owning a dog was, and I replied, the goodbye. I mean, I dread the moment Toffee or Chi-Chi goes, but Chi-Chi's a little bit younger, but I dread it. Because I literally dread it. Because Toffee is the most irritating dog in the world in many regards, but she's the most charismatic, isn't she? I mean, she's
very funny. She makes us laugh.
She makes us laugh so
She's
much.
very, very, very exhausting dog.
Yeah, she's
though.
definitely got ADHD.
She's definitely got ADHD,
Yeah.
and she's exhausting and demanding and codependent, and she drives you nuts. But my God, her personality.
And right now she's crocheting a knitted Santa, which is
Oh,
really odd.
Vicky Waiting lost her dog just before the first
Zebedee.
lockdown.
Oh, dear.
Added massively to my depression. God, going into lockdown having just lost your dog, that must have been just horrible.
So I think a shout out to the fact that when you lose a pet, I think people, especially in a work environment, you sort of say something and people just go, oh, that's awful, and they move on. People are like that with grandparents. It's really odd. Life just charges on too quickly without any reflection. I hate that. So, we just thought, we knew that, pets are very important to all of you. So there we go. We've done the weather warning. That bored
So we can
Nadia
do
to death.
third of men want more partners.
Third of straight men, let's clarify that, would like multiple partners. I did a poll asking, would you consider having multiple partners? And a resounding 91% said no. 9% said yes. I think, Erin, I think you said you are in a polyamorous relationship. Is that right? Reese, it's funny you should mention Robert Downey Jr.'s new documentary. Nadia was talking about that this morning. Yeah. Martina McKeown, incredibly sweet and generous of you, yet again, gifting like mad.
Oh, Martina.
Martina, stop now. Stop. Stop. It's very
so
sweet.
sweet.
I was surprised by this statistic. Third of straight men. Do you want me to give you the figures?
I wasn't.
Yeah, nearly a third of men, 32%, were open to the idea of more than one wife or long-term girlfriend, whereas only 5% of women were interested in forming part of such a relationship. Researchers at Swansea University asked 1,000 people, and this figure came out. The number goes up slightly when you get to men over 50, interestingly. So, it's something that increases with age.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ever so slightly. It's 32% for younger men, 39%.
I wonder how it changes what they want from them over 50.
Yes. And men who... where men have more than one wife or partner, it's polygamy. Polygamy. When women do, it's polyandry. Yeah. And if you're in a relationship, it's polyamory. But it's illegal in this country. If you're to have two wives, you could go to prison, or two husbands, you could go to prison for 7 years. Did you know that?
7 years.
Yeah. So why weren't you surprised?
Because I think...
Are any of you surprised?
I have to choose my words carefully here.
Ooh, tiptoeing.
Because I don't want to leave women that that like multiple partners out of this. And I realise that there are many women that do, and they like to have sex with lots of different people, and good on them. Two consenting adults, I have no problem with that at all. But I wonder if we are genetically predisposed genetically, because ultimately we deliver a baby and immediately we have to keep it alive. So we are made that our breast milk is that. I'm talking about if you just go to a basic biology.
Yeah.
And so that takes you out of the game from having a look round, having sex with different people. So I wonder if just it goes back
You're hunkering down and having a family.
to the very beginning
Sort
of humanity, is that women were just, yeah. So I know more women wouldn't want, if I were to do a straw poll of all the men and women that I've met in my life, I would say the massive majority of women would be completely horrified at the idea of having multiple partners.
Oh, so here, Erin, thank you. Yeah, I currently only have one partner, but my girlfriend has another girlfriend, and she too has other partners. You see, for me, the complications kick in. You're going to have to be a resoundingly unjealous person. I mean, whenever I've seen documentaries about polyamorous relationships in America or Mormonesque, I'd be lying if I said I thought the women looked happy.
Well, whenever I've seen any of these programs about people with multiple partners or their wife swapping, I'm always struck that the wife seems to be not as happy. Now, there will be
these statistics would
but it's really
suggest
important
they're not.
that we always look to the women that do like it and do want to do it, because this is not with judgment, because I have no judgment.
No, not at all.
I really, really don't. But it feels to me, any documentary I've ever seen, any podcast I've listened to, any radio show, it does seem more often that men are more into it than women.
Driving.
And so I suppose that's what drives me to have not been shocked by this. By
Good
this
Ship
stat.
Lollipop, you say you've got to be a masochist to be polyamorous. I kind of know what you mean.
But what if you're the one that has the power? If you're the one that has convinced other people that you want a couple of people, then maybe that's a real megalomaniac trip.
I mean, I think there's also possibly a difference between wanting sex with lots of people and wanting to be married to more than one person.
But do these people want anything other than... I don't know.
Do you think
tell me honestly, and I won't be annoyed with this. I really won't, because I 100% trust you, and I know that you're not looking around, and I know that you don't want other partners, that you're not looking for a affair. But if you really went to the core of being a man, if you went to your pure maleness without the restrictions of society that says we're all supposed to be in, faithful relationships.
I think I would have answered very differently when I was younger.
What would you have answered when you were younger?
Yes.
What?
To lots of partners. But in a weird way, that was happening anyway. So, but not... Well, I don't want to go into that. But
but lots of people when they are younger, I think being younger is about. I don't think there
yes,
should be any shame in it.
serially monogamous is something different. And
to go straight into a totally monogamous relationship for the whole of your adult
That's a big
life
commitment.
is fine as well. But it's not to be expected or ashamed of if
But
it happens.
honestly, as I get older, absolutely not. Because I do think, when we were talking about this before, I think it's easy to characterise men as only thinking with one thing. And don't get me wrong, I think that is a huge thing sorry, terrible use of words. It's a huge thing for men, and there's a truism in it. That's what I'm saying. Though not all men at all. But I think there's
many men, I think, can separate their sexual organs from themselves.
But I think we underestimate the extent to which there are a lot of men for whom love and intimacy and affection beyond just sex is as important, or are as important as sex, or you know what I mean. And that's why I'm curious to know whether culturally this isn't about sex for some men. This is about a sort of, as I think Crystal said, a harem type approach. Because I mean, in other cultures, it's considered totally acceptable to have more than one wife, and in some of those cultures, the wives support each other and pull together and what have you. But
well, in some of those cultures
is the
where
honest
you've had
answer
an
now.
arranged
Yes, when I was younger.
marriage and you probably can't stand the person you've been forced to be married, there's probably a bit of relief if he has a few more wives.
I mean, I'm not as much of a red-blooded, hot-headed chap now, so, yes, probably when I was younger, but no, as I get older, absolutely not. No.
And what do you think that was when you were younger then? Was that like a boredom? What was that?
Curiosity, maybe.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
A buffet.
Experiential. different. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, it's hard to try and work it out. I mean, so much of it was sort of drink
Try to
fueled.
work it.
Yeah, but so much. I mean, I've never sort of scientifically broken it down. But I mean, so much of it was, in the context of drinking too much, hedonism. Putting myself. And this is a classic bipolar ADHD thing. Putting myself in vulnerable positions emotionally and physically. Ego. Sarah Robinson,
I
absolutely
love
right.
Jackie's really simple sentence. Men's sex drive dies off. But, Jackie, a lot of these men were over 50.
Yeah, well, and the number goes up over 50. I mean, it's 50.
More
39%.
men over 50 want multiple relationships.
Dear heart, no to crabs. I mean, there's that aspect. Well, and also a lot of older people having sex because there's an increase in gonorrhea amongst pensioners or people of pensionable age.
Pink Lady, expression, hormones, experimentation. I did a lot when I was young. I put myself at such risk.
You see, I think I think we often talk about the risk, agreeably so and rightly so, that women put themselves to. But I do think also men treat themselves appallingly by the pressures of society. I mean, I think some of it will have been not peer pressure, literally, like go and...
Well,
but
and
I
also
think,
that egging on, and it's like, you're cool, you're always pulling a bird, toxic masculinity.
Yeah, oh, how did it go with that woman you were talking to the other... and it's, it's pathetic.
Did you used to talk about what you'd done?
Not in great detail, no. No, I would never talk about sex. But I would talk...
Do you think he got away with nobody knowing what he meant?
I would talk about the complications, which were
Like what?
often forthcoming.
What do you mean?
No, from the logistics of having a fling or being with someone and all that kind of stuff.
I thought you meant the complications of the actual act.
No, I didn't talk... No, I mean, funnily enough, and we're talking about a time when men were unrehabilitated around the 90s and noughties.
You can't be ashamed for a time when we thought differently.
But we did. But interestingly, we didn't. No.
It's how you move on in life, isn't it? Everybody makes fucking mistakes at every point in their life, and I think to always carry shame for things that you have addressed is really sad. I mean, the way the world is at the moment, it feels like people can't apologise, people can't shift, people can't change, people can't. And I think that's a real problem just generally in the Western world at the moment. Everyone's got to be angry with everybody. Everybody's got to judge everybody. But we only learn from our mistakes, and I think we learn more when we share our mistakes with others. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Claire Haywood, my friend's in a polyamorous relationship. Her wife's in legal marriage with her husband, but their marriage was through hand fasting ceremony. They all live together in the same house and get on well.
Well, the thing is, if everybody is happy,
Oh yeah, no.
why
I mean,
the
there's no
hell
judgment
not?
at all.
I just don't think that there's anything wrong with what anybody does.
As long as it doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And everyone's compliant.
Claire, who just said she's all got COVID, and 7 and 9-year-old. Both times we've had COVID, we've always thought, oh my God, imagine if you had little ones, how much harder it is. So sending you a big, big hug.
Joe Wilkinson says they're over 50, but in their minds they think they are young again.
Very damning.
It's the midlife crisis. You see, I genuinely haven't felt that. I've not thought, I wish I was still attractive to... I haven't felt
You
that.
haven't thought what?
I wish I was still attractive to other women.
You are attractive to other women.
No, but I'm not... But the midlife crisis is about trying to do things to make you like that. And it hasn't... I'm happy with you.
What's the matter with you?
What do you mean? I'm telling you I'm happy.
I was teasing you.
Oh, dearie me.
And you are attractive.
Oh, shush.
You
Shush.
are.
It's getting embarrassing now. Stop it.
Embarrassing.
I'm not well
Oh,
with
Viagra, says Jackie Foligno. Okay.
Yep. Slam it in a fridge door. Always a solution. What? Viagra. I just wanted to quickly mention, that's the third of straight men, Amber Heard is demanding a new trial. Can you believe this? She's demanding a new trial.
Oh, I think...
Claiming that her original case excluded her therapy notes, which, to be fair, it did. The only problem there is with her therapy notes...
I thought we were listening to therapists endlessly.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to a therapist.
No, but not her therapy notes. But the only problem with therapy notes is there'll be notes taken about what she said.
Yeah, the thing is...
It doesn't mean it's...
Somebody
It still doesn't mean
that
it's
said
right.
this the other day about something else. That it's only a recollection.
Miss Tiggy
of
Winkle.
one
Hearsay.
person, isn't it? It's not an
Yes.
official document. It's not.
And even, I mean, they did have therapists there who did talk a bit about what she'd said. You can
Yeah,
say that she said something just because she said it. It's, as Tiggy Winkle said, it's hearsay. Hearsay.
Yeah.
And I think in a weird way, it can't stand up in court.
But also,
Don't have the
if that
stomach
was
for
the
another.
case, wouldn't she have demanded that her lawyers actually in her case? If it was
Yeah, but the
if it was
judge
legally
denied
binding?
it.
Oh,
The judge did not
denied
allow it to be submitted as
Oh,
evidence.
so she's saying the judge did wrong.
Yeah,
right.
and she wants the retrial to happen in California.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think it will happen?
Possibly. A part of me wonders whether Elon Musk is behind bankrolling her to do this.
She's his ex, isn't she?
And they're still friends. So
Right, let's not miss this. We need to get on because
Yeah.
we need to do step families at Christmas.
Oh, I forgot about that.
This
Sorry.
is off the story. Jennifer Lopez and Jennifer Garner apparently meeting on Christmas to share gifts as they have become better and better friends.
Oh wow.
And I was talking to somebody last night. I talked to a couple of people yesterday actually about step families, and you know, my stepdaughters are all grown up now, but it was incredibly hard Christmas because it was just so hard. Wasn't
It was incredibly
It-
stressful.
It was so stressful.
And in a weird way, the stress of it still runs through,
Right through.
into now because, of course, everyone's been programmed into a certain approach to Christmas that is very hard to shake, and that's through
Yeah.
no fault of the children's.
So I just wanted to share this as the person that's observed it, because I never got involved in any way with the details, right? I always considered myself to just be a friend that the girls would see. I never put myself in a stepmother position. I never told them anything. But this is what I would say. If there's any way at all, you can just completely park, and I used to say this to Mark, you know, you have to park your feelings. If there's any way you are dreading Christmas this year and all the ramifications and back and forth, really sit and ask yourself, is there any way I could make a bridge here? Not thinking of myself, not thinking of my partner, not thinking of all the details, but totally through the eyes of your child. Put yourself into your child's body and look up out of their eyes at the adults and wonder if there's anything you can do to park and to put to one side your feelings, your ego, your fight, your hurt, your pain, your need for vengeance, whatever it is. If you can just park it and reach out for a moment and say, you know what, maybe it would be all right for a couple of hours on Christmas Day, or yeah, maybe on Boxing Day they could come.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to
It
say.
will be so amazing for you as a person as well. Now, of course, this is parking aside dangerous relationships, violent relationships, anything like that. But I just think it's so rewarding if that happens.
But what I would say as an addendum to that, I don't think that necessarily means you'll need to sit around in a circle singing
absolutely not.
Kumbaya.
You don't have to sit with them.
But what I do think it means is having an incredibly equitable, whoever the primary carer is having an unbiased, equitable approach to Christmas. Either every other year it changes round. But the problem with this, which lots of absent parents will understand and will have experienced, is the one thing you can't do as an absent parent is represent yourself within the home of your child most of the year. And so what can happen, and I've had some experience of this, what can happen is that, you know, the child is not encouraged to even think about the possibilities of having another experience, having time elsewhere, however, it's always going to be disruptive in some way. And so if you are not represented, your child will grow up with not much of an understanding of where that obligation lies to family, because part of being part of a family is investing emotional time in a family, and that is incumbent on a child as much as it's incumbent on a parent, and that incumbency on a child
Weighs
often
heavy.
is not encouraged by the primary carer.
I think that every decision that all the adults make around Christmas, everyone in those decisions has to sit down and be brutal and say, this decision that I'm making,
It's
this
for me,
email
yeah.
I'm
Why am I
writing, this
doing it?
text I'm sending, is it really about me and my pain and my anger, or am I doing this for my child? And honest to God, it will serve you, and then that will serve your child, and there's no better way to be a parent than to do that. I really, really believe that. And
Because,
I think sometimes people leave things too long, and then there's so much regret, and they can look back and go, if only I'd just...
And what can happen is, and it's really unfortunate, especially around really emotional times like Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that, is a proxy war can develop between you and your ex-partner, or the two parents, through your child, and that child becomes the kind of focal point of that conflict. And I think we can all say, hand on heart, we've all, well, you know, as absent parents, we've all fallen foul of that. We've all allowed our self-interest or our self-hurt or our ego and all that kind of stuff bleed into things. It's very hard not to, because there's frustration, there's huge frustration that kicks in on both sides. So, you know, I think it's good that you've talked about this, because I think for so many families, it's such a stressful time, because huge numbers of children are having to do what I call the doorstep split, which is, you know, be one thing in one house, be another thing in another house, and it's incredibly stressful.
Another thing, I think it's a really important thing to say, oh, how was your Christmas? And do it
Genuinely.
and genuinely, and not
Jealously.
find a way to like find out what's going on in the other house. You have to, it's so hard. All of this is so hard. And the only reason I'm saying this is, just over the last few weeks, I've had a number of conversations with people that are in these situations. It's really interesting listening to it, and those that are trying to reach out and make little bridges. And I can see how almost the frown lines just soften a little, you know. Your child, imagine this. This is your child, just like, yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's the child that's at the centre of things, and it's much more difficult for the child.
Because
than
they
it
feel
ever is for the
loyalty
parent.
to everyone, even if the other person's a terrible parent. Even if the other one is a terrible parent, your child will love them. One of the things that I love about children so much, and I've just done a whole load of interviews on this actually, because I'm working with Action for Children. They keep, you know, the journalists always say to me, where does this come from? Is this, you've had this feeling since you've had children? I said, no, I've always had this thing about children. But there's something so extraordinary about their ability to forgive. The most terrible things can happen to children. They will still love their parents. They still want their parents. You know, and I just find their resilience, sometimes, all of us do it, we forget, actually, that they're not as resilient as they look. They're dealing with a lot of stuff. So if you try, I think if you always try and look through the child's eyes, it will make it easier on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Well, there we go, guys.
Just my experience, not my advice. I
Yeah.
hold no qualifications whatsoever to give any advice. And just
Pink Lady says, as a trained foster carer, you learn that even abused children love their parents.
I know. So even if the other parent is awful, and if you're slagging them off, that child will feel it like a cut. You know, it hurts.
And as I've often said to my mum and other people, is if you don't know if you don't know a parent, or say tragically you've lost a parent when they were younger, or your parent isn't interested in knowing you and getting in contact with you as a child, you have as much of a relationship with that absence as you do with a parent that's present. When you have an absent parent like I did, they occupy such a huge, potentially fictional part of your life. They're half of you in some capacity. They are living a life which you think about. They could have lived a life with you, which you're thinking about. There's all sorts of emotions that come into why they haven't seen you and all that kind of stuff. So it's as significant. The two parents of a child will. That's why I'm a big believer that having children without knowing, you know, we were talking about it the other day, surrogacy and all that kind of, you know, not knowing who one of your parents is. I dispute the idea that any child would not be affected by that, or wonder where they come from.
Not you know, not in a way that it wouldn't. They don't still want to be here. But it's just it's taking into account that it means something.
Yeah,
People want to know, you know, where they come from. But anyway, bit of rambling there.
Yeah.
But
So Vlogmas obviously landing later, and you know, we had the loft. If you haven't seen the loft, you know, I mean, I thought Nanny Di was great getting into the loft and throwing everything down, wasn't she? She was really, really energetic. But guys.